Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Victoria Dowling. I'm the head of the renovation sales team here at Cross Country Mortgage. For those of you who have joined before, you know that once a month we take a minute and we talk about all different things renovation and design. And we have with us our favorite designer, Kate Troyer from Home Slice Living. Hi, Kate.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us again. So in the past, we've covered a bunch of topics like how to maximize your renovation budget. We've talked about backyard renovations, a bunch of different topics. Check it out. Check out our renovation Facebook page. We'd love to have you like us and follow us and check out those past videos. Today, we're going to talk about a really fun topic, and it's how to prepare your home for the holidays with renovation and design. And so for those of you who haven't joined us before, let me tell you a little bit about renovation financing and what we offer here at Cross Country Mortgage. Renovation financing allows you to either purchase a home and renovate or refinance a home and renovate. And we're always lending against that future value of the house. So even if you don't have the current equity where you could do a cash out refinance, or you're buying with a low down payment, we can still help you turn that house into the home that you want it to be. Super affordable, 30-year fixed mortgages. So please feel free to reach out if you have any questions on those. And before we get into our topic today, Kate, I would love for you to talk a little bit about why you think Feng Shui pairs so well with getting your home ready to invite people in.
Oh, I thank you for asking that. I think that's going to really set the tone for the rest of our conversation. So, the reason it pairs so well is that in my eyes, in the type of feng shui that I practice, it's really about using your environment to serve you, to make you feel better, to kind of give you a big warm hug when you get home. And why wouldn't you also want to, portray that feeling to your guests when they're coming over for the holidays? It's also going to help you feel grounded in your space and also kind of be mindful that you're having a lot of different personalities in your home, so just kind of preparing that and getting ready for everyone to feel grounded in the space and really setting you up for success for your holiday. And then having your guests just really feel that good energy when they walk into your home. It can completely change the whole entire vibe of a get together.
I think that's great. And I'm so excited to get into the topics today. So first up, we have the entrance to the house right at the front door. So
Mhm.
I know there are a bunch of things you could do with a renovation loan. We'll talk about those in a second. But what things do you think are important when people are thinking about either design or renovation for that front door space?
So for the front door space in Feng Shui, we really want to focus on this area, right? So even if you typically are going in through your garage or a secondary entrance, I would really encourage you to have your guests come through the front door. Now, the reason for that is that in Feng Shui, your front door is your main entrance for good energy flow to come into the rest of your home. And so we want that entrance to be used, because the more it's used, the more you're, kind of setting yourself up to let more energy in. So on top of it being used as your entrance, we also want to make sure that we are fluffing it up a little bit. If you are able to decorate it for the holidays, that's amazing. Like this picture that we have is like so beautiful. If you can do all that, you're awesome. You're a rock star, right? But if you can't do all of that, maybe, you don't have the time or the budget, just simply making sure that it's clean, maybe hanging a nice little wreath on the door, and then also making sure of just little small things. A nice new welcome mat, right? Our welcome mats tend to kind of get dingy, especially when you live kind of in the Northeast like we do, right? Because all of the season changes, and it's kind of something that we forget about. Spend 10, 15 bucks, go get yourself a nice welcome mat. It's one of the first things people see. Hang a wreath or something on the front door. And then also you can do things like making sure all your light bulbs, have been changed if any of them have gone out. Just little things like that make such a huge difference. When people pull into your driveway and they're getting ready to get out of their car, in essence, we want that kind of a pathway to the front door, right? Because we want them to just automatically think they should walk in that front door. And the more that people are assuming that on their own, that means that, that good energy that we want flowing in is thinking that same thing. I typically think of that chi energy that enters your home as a person. So if it's walking down the road, does it know that it can come in your front door, right? Is it happy, healthy looking? So those are a couple of quick tips. On the renovation side, I think something like adding a porch or a patio, maybe during that, I don't know, and this is a great question, if like adding actual exterior lighting is part of, can
Oh,
be part of
yeah.
your renovation budget. But,
Yep.
having that like permanently installed lighting is a really great option as well. And, if you can't do permanently installed lighting, there are a million options on Amazon. We have a great PDF for you this time with some shoppable things too, like that. So,
Yeah, that's a great point. You can absolutely do exterior lighting. I feel like every call we have, lighting is like the backbone of it because it's so important to layer it and have it be an inviting environment. And lighting plays such a big part in that and can also make a space look so much more custom and high end. So exterior lighting is definitely one. I love this picture we have today too, because the first thing that struck me was all the windows and just like that light coming in and that
mhm.
inviting feeling and of the outdoors and the indoors kind of being together. So you can do that too. You could do a brand new door, you could do windows around the doorway, build a portico like we have here so that your guests, when they start to come into the house or a little bit in out of the cold or the rain or the snow or whatever we're dealing with that day, porch is definitely allowed, like you mentioned, Kate. And I know you mentioned a minute ago a walkway to the front. You can do
Yeah.
that 100% with a renovation loan. Like, great idea. So you could, if you've got maybe a hill coming up to your house, you could regrade the yard, do the stairs, the walkway, whatever it is you need to make that front entrance more inviting. We can absolutely help do that with a renovation loan. So probably, especially if you're in New England, you don't have time to do all of that before Christmas this year. But if you're thinking ahead, and even if you're preparing for the spring and the summer where you want to start having people back over your house, great things to think about to just make that front entryway a place that not only people want to come into, but just feel really welcomed and invited. I love how you describe it like a warm hug, Kate. It's just, yeah, holidays. So yeah, all those renovations could be taken care of. So whether it's a small project or a big project, great ideas for the front door space. What do we have next on our list? Let's see. Oh, the foyer. So you're in the front door.
Yeah.
So talk to
Yeah.
us
So
about this, Kate.
again, so this is an extremely important area, right? Because it's the front, it's where, so now that your energy has found your home and it's like, oh, yay, I get to come into this wonderful home. Now we want to, really bring it inside. So your entrance and your foyer. So if you are lucky enough to have a large foyer, that's amazing. But if you don't, that's okay too. I don't have a foyer in our house here, but I do have a nice little entryway that I'm gonna kind of set up with a little bench and some things like that. So the reason your front entry is important, aside from bringing that chi in, is that we want a space for your guests or yourself to be able to ground before moving in through the rest of the space. So, as an example, I'm sure many of you have been in a home where it's like, where you have like you walk in and there's windows straight at the back, you can see straight to the back. Maybe it's even a beautiful view, water or something like that, but what you feel is as soon as you walk in, you are pulled all the way back through the house. And it's kind of like unconsciously you feel unsettled because of that. You didn't have a moment to like come in, take in your environment. Your foyer is really your place to ground yourself as you are transitioning from that outer energy and that outdoor place into a home. So it's really important that we take a look at that. So if this is something that you can permanently do, awesome. Maybe it's even something that you just set up at your entrance for holidays. when you're having guests over. So I like to recommend something, if you have a mudroom, I know that's something that you're going to talk about, Victoria, that's something we can add. These are some nice little spaces here. They had a very small space. They added a little bench seating, place to hang coats. And same thing over here, just giving you some sort of space. So even if you do something small, if you have almost no entrance, something that you can set up for when you're having people over is, grab an ottoman or two and a coat hanger and a rug, and just bring those items kind of near the front door, because we want people, if they need to sit down to take off shoes, they're able to at least set a bag down, hang their coat up, and they're able to kind of assimilate with the new environment they're in before coming in into your space. And again, the reason that's so important is we want them to feel grounded and comfortable the remainder of the time that they're in their home. And if their body never has a chance to settle, it's often you'll see them kind of pacing around and they're really anxious. And, it's like they kind of are like ready to leave and they don't know why. Give them that moment to ground first. And I think you'll see a big difference in how people act in your home. And then my one other tip before we move on to the renovation aspect of your entrance is that, if you don't like people walking around in their shoes in your house, especially during the holidays, especially with the weather that we have in the Northeast states where it's snow, it could be rain, it's just kind of yucky. In Feng Shui, we typically don't like shoes in the home. And now not everybody practices that. It's something that I'm doing in our new house that I didn't always enforce in our old one. But if you are going to do that, again, set up a place, have a boot tray out for people to put their shoes in. And then another thing that you can do is have a nice little basket of, fuzzy socks or something that people can put on and then take home with them. So it's something nice. It makes them feel warm and fuzzy when they're walking around the home, and they kind of get to take it as a little parting gift. So that's always nice as well.
Oh, I love that. That's such a great idea. And when you say it, it makes so much sense. I've just never thought of it in that way before. That you have somebody coming in, shedding the outside, becoming a part of your space. Because when the coats are all over the room, it feels like chaos. And they're
Mhm.
tracking into the mud and the snow. I lived in Rhode Island before this. I didn't understand how important the no shoes thing was until I moved up to Maine. And I was like, oh, this isn't just like an optional thing. This is something that you gotta take your shoes off. So it makes so much sense when you say it like that. And when it comes to renovation financing, absolutely. If you wanted to build a built-in, I know a lot of people now are taking kind of those wider closets and just building a bench in the bottom and putting the hooks in. And not that this would go renovation, but just an idea I had because I was thinking, geez, where am I going to put a place for people to hang their coats? Like they sell really pretty command hooks now that are really
Yeah.
strong, and you can put up a temporary option. So even if you're just like for the holidays, here's where everybody's going to hang their coats, have that place for them to land and get that done and not have it be cluttering the rest of your space. But absolutely, we can do built-ins. We could do, if you wanted to have, I know some foyers have a different flooring in that foyer area just to kind of set that off from the rest of the space. You could do something like that, like tile the space if you have a bigger foyer. But absolutely, great tips for when folks enter the home. All right, let's see what we have. Oh, guest rooms. Everybody needs a guest room. We're finally starting to travel again, and you want to have people there and you want them to stay longer. So tell us your best tips for the guest rooms, Kate.
Okay, so I will say this. I'm probably going to give you some tips that are like a little bit extra that you don't necessarily need to do for your guests, but just some ideas in case you really want people to feel welcome and comfortable. And I will say, especially if these are guests like, maybe it's not your sister or brother that you're really comfortable with, but maybe an aunt and uncle, grandparents, someone that's never really stayed in your house before, maybe is in a different age group, and you just want them to feel really, really comfortable in your home. So, everybody kind of goes to bed at different times. Like you don't want to force them to, just be stuck in a room. So something that I like to do when I have guests over is kind of put together like a little basket, or even just make sure the room is set up with items that they don't have to feel like they need to leave the room for, because how many times have, we stay to other people's houses and it's like in the middle of the night and you're dying of thirst, but you don't have a water bottle and you're like, oh, do I really want to creep out to the kitchen? Or maybe I'm laying in bed and I'm like, just really need a snack, but I don't want to ask, or again, just like go rifling through the cupboards if I'm not super comfortable with you. So I like to give people those options so that once they're kind of, shut in their room for the night, they kind of have some things that they need so that they can feel ultra comfortable and really get a good night's rest and relax in your space. So a few things that I like to provide, if you want to be super extra, like me, you can put together this beautiful basket with, some magazines, waters, treats, lotions, the whole nine, and like just really go above and beyond to make people feel welcome. If you just want to do some basic things, leaving out towels for them to take a shower. That way, again, they don't have to come and ask you, hey, where are the towels? What do I do? Just giving them a set of towels in there, maybe your extra robe if you have one, making sure that you have waters in there, and whether that's, bottled waters, or they have these really wonderful bedside carafes that you can get, at different places like Crate and Barrel, and you can even get them on Amazon, that you can fill with water and just have them there for them. And then maybe just a few little snacks. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. Make sure they have an extra blanket. I always like to, as well, one other thing, if you really want to go the extra mile, make sure that there's maybe some sort of speaker or radio or a fan or something. We all sleep differently. And some of us need some noise. Some of us need things very quiet. So again, just giving them the option, if they need a little noise or whatnot, that's there for them. But you can always include easy things too, like toothbrushes, razors, shampoo and conditioner, all of those things, just whatever you feel like you can do to just go out of your way a little bit to make your guests feel ultra comfortable. And again, bringing that back to Feng Shui, it's like we're giving our guests a big hug, right? We really want them to feel comfortable and happy in their space while they're with us.
I definitely have to up my basket skills over here. I'm like, yeah, oh yeah, I leave a bottle of water. That's about it though. So next time I'll be better. I promise, guests, if you're watching. But no, and I love guest room, right? I think that most people, when they think about this topic, they're probably going to think about design. And a lot of it is about design. You do want that place to be warm and comfy, cozy, and have all of the creature comforts. But it's also about the space, right? And having the space. I know not everybody has that extra room in their house, that extra bedroom that they can just have set up year round, ready to go for when people come over. So there's a couple of different things that you could look at in a renovation loan if you're preparing for next holiday season or the summer or whatever it might be. And the first thing you want to think about is, what unused space do you have in your house? Is there an unfinished portion of your basement at the bottom of the stairs that could be finished and you can make kind of a guest suite out of, even if it's just the bedroom and a little kitchenette where you've got a Keurig and a toaster and some little creature comforts like that. Maybe it's the attic space that you've just never finished before. And so a renovation loan can be used to take that extra space and really finish it for you and make your house have all the space that you need, especially if it's attic space. That's going to add the most value to your house because that's above ground square footage, and add that extra bedroom up there. So not only are you preparing for future guests, but you're adding a ton of value to your house. So that was one thing we were talking about the other day. And another was, a lot of us now have home offices because a lot of us are working from home. And maybe you want to make that home office serve dual purpose. If you have guests over, it's probably not during the week while you're working, and you already have now taken your guest room and turned it into where you work every day. So you could do something like install a Murphy bed and some built-ins. And that way, when you're in there as the office, it's tucked away and you're able to work. And when you have guests coming down, they can pull down the Murphy bed and they can be in that space and be comfortable as well. So you can really make that extra room in your house work for you. So just some things to think about, especially this holiday season while you've got everybody in and you're noticing, geez, maybe I don't have enough space. Maybe I do need to do something like that. In the extreme, if you really want to go all out, you can build an addition to your house. So we talked about this, I think, when we were talking about the home office part of it too. If you found that now you really need this extra space because you need a home office or you have to have a guest room now, you can build an addition either up or out on your property. Some of our renovation loans even allow you to build a detached accessory dwelling unit. So if you've got a large lot, you could build a guest house or office space right in the backyard. Lots of options there. So while you're packed in this holiday season, think about it, look around, think about what you might want to do, and we can help you take care of all of that with a renovation loan. Let's see, what do we have for our next topic? Entertainment. Oh, when we were having our pre-call, this was the topic where I was taking the most notes. I was like, oh, all right, Kate, what did you just say? So why don't you give everybody tips on how entertainment can help with that flow and that energy?
Yeah, so this is something that we often don't think of. And again, we've all been in this situation before on both sides, right? So I'm having everybody over, I'm in the kitchen cooking, the guys typically gather around the TV, but what about everybody that's here that like doesn't care about the game that's on or just wants a quiet space? And also too, if we're the ones in the kitchen and you know how when people don't have something to do, they're like, hey, can I help you? Hey, can I help you? And you have to tell them a million times, like, no, I'm okay. So it's really important that we're kind of thinking ahead a little bit and we're creating some spaces for people to kind of congregate depending on their likes and their personality. So Aunt Mary probably doesn't want to watch the big loud game with the guys, but would love to sit in the corner and have a quiet conversation with, cousin Susie. So creating different spaces for different personalities. And this is something that you don't have to go out and buy things for this, right? Kind of take what you already have in your home and just move some things around. So if you have a couple extra chairs in your living room that you could put in a corner somewhere with a little table, maybe that's even just pulling out a couple folding chairs or something like that. It doesn't have to be, extravagant. Just, obviously, if you want to purchase stuff, go right ahead. We've got some really cool, fun things in our PDF that we have. But you don't have to. You can really take from what you have. So my thing is creating like at least 3 zones for people to hang out in. So one is always going to be around the TV, right? Whether it's, you've got a Christmas movie on or a sports game or something like that. You're giving the people that option that kind of just want to hang out, watch TV. And then setting up at least one kind of more quiet zone where people can talk and just, have a drink, maybe nosh on some food, having appetizers laid out. And then, you can do that as many places as you have room for in your home. If you have a couple places for quiet areas, awesome. If you don't, one is amazing. And then the third one is usually addressing, where children might be as well. So having an area for children where you can have some kids' toys or, if you don't already have children, like me, I probably wouldn't go out and buy toys, but maybe I've got a couple games and I can also, throw out some drawing paper and markers and things like that. So maybe giving them a little office space or a little nook where they're not running around driving everybody crazy and you can kind of keep them entertained in one space. I just think having those kind of zones is really important. So you've got people that can watch TV. You've got also maybe an area for adults to play games, like good, maybe your family likes to play cards, and you've got a euchre tournament, that you can put together while everybody's there. Just thinking of ways that you can entertain that, not that you can entertain people, but people can kind of entertain themselves so that they don't feel like, oh man, I'm not being helpful, or they have to sit and listen to the guys being loud watching the football game if that's kind of not their cup of tea. So I think there are a lot of different ways, and I'm not sure if we broke out those 2 into 2 segments. I think I kind of covered them ish at the same time, but we can kind of dive deeper into both of those as well.
Yeah, no, I love that. And there's not quite as much you can do with that on a renovation loan. That really is like a lot of staging. But the one thing
Mhm.
I think of when you're talking about this topic is the loud guys watching the TV, right? So you can use this to make a man cave, guys. We're talking about
Yes.
unused space in the basement. make a man cave, wire the electric down there, get your cable down there, finish it off enough, because you can contain that energy in a space that's not
Yeah.
your main level. So something to think about there. And then the other thing I was thinking about while you were talking is and just the way you're explaining it too, I feel like it's the same way where you want to have those zones where everybody's kind of entertaining themselves, but in the same space commingling. And
Yep.
so if you need to take down the wall, build a large island, build a breakfast nook with a banquette, things like that, we can absolutely incorporate into a renovation loan so that your space is more for entertaining and having those small pockets of groups that are still in the same space together. I'm okay with the guys being in the basement, but everybody else who's not yelling at the TV, you know, you want to be able to communicate with. And so having that line of sight always helps there. Let's see what we have for our next topic. Dinner time. This kind of transitions into that because you need to
Yes.
have that space, especially for that long table, which we all know comes out those couple times a year.
Yeah. And I think so, dinner time is something where, so this is something that I, for example, will be doing in our house this year. So I know not everybody has a large dining room. I don't. Right. And so I normally have like a 4 to 5 person round table in the dining room. Well, obviously, when everybody's over for the holidays, that's not going to work. Right. So my suggestion would be is to invest in a 1 or 2 or 3, however many you need, nice folding tables, right? There's so much you can do with a folding table. Grab some decent tablecloths from TJ Maxx, Home Goods, where you're paying 10 or 12 bucks for them. Get the oversized so they drape on the floor. Nobody's even going to know that it's a folding table, right? And this picture that we have is just such a great example of, really the only thing they're using to stage this table is the food that they're eating and some candles, right? So we can all, even if we're not super creative, or at least we don't think we're super creative, we can all throw down some candles and some food, right? And when we're just taking that little extra step to set up where we're having dinner, or, again, and this kind of goes back to creating zones, is when people get there, having little spaces where we've got food and drink out so people can help themselves, just taking a little extra effort and throwing some candles in that mix or anything like that is just really going to help. It just increases that good energy, and people realize that you took, even if it only took you 5 seconds, you took that little extra time to care about, the energy that you're giving off and putting intention into that space that you're setting up, which Feng Shui is all about intention in your environment, and then how that affects not only you, but everyone that you bring to your home. So, setting up for dinner should be no different. Take those extra little steps. I don't even care if all your dishes match. It doesn't matter. Have fun with that, and just, give people this warm, cozy space to sit down and, enjoy a meal together.
Yeah. And talking about finding space, I remember growing up and there would be kind of that 3 season room. That's that long room along the side of the house that we'd always have the long tables on. And that's a great example. Like we'd be freezing, but you can put heat out there. You can make that
Yep.
a 4 season space, added a square footage to your house. So if you do have something like that and you want to build it in and get that heating in there so that you have the space not only for yourself throughout the year, but also for the holiday season, you can absolutely do that because it is all about finding the space for everybody to go. So I love that. All right, let's see. Oh, questions. So, guys, we've just talked for the last half hour about all kinds of great things you could do to prepare your house for the holidays. We would love to hear from you if you have any questions. So, please feel free to put them in the chat for us. I know everybody's preparing for the holiday season right now, and so are we. We have our 12 Days of Christmas winners. So, if you've registered for this webinar or past webinars, we've pulled 12 winners from the list, and we'll be sending you guys a little surprise from Cross Country Mortgage and from Kate at Home Slice Living. So we're excited to be able to get that to you guys. And
All
we'd love
right,
to
so
hear
it looks
from you.
like we have just a couple of questions here. The
Sure.
first one is there a way to feng shui rooms around pet items, specifically in the
Mm.
kitchen around their food and water dish?
Oh, that's such a great question. So I actually did a TikTok video on this recently. Um, so pet spaces are a really great thing to address. And here would be kind of like my few tips to go along with that is especially when you're having people over for the holidays, is one is where your pet's food and stuff in the way of kind of people congregating. And if so, is there a place that you can move it for like during the party? Right? Maybe that's kind of like your breezeway, or maybe you have a little space off the garage. Or and if you don't have a place that you can move it, totally fine. I would just make sure that it's contained and as out of the way as possible so people aren't tripping over it. And then, just leave out things like the bowls, a water bowl and a food bowl. If you have, a food container and all of that, tuck that away in a closet. So just tucking those items away. If you have, cats and you have cat boxes and things like that, make sure those are clean. Again, if you can tuck those away as out of sight as possible, I would encourage that just on daily use, but especially for when you're having guests over. You don't want people walking in your house and the first thing they see or smell is your cat box. So just, being mindful about things like that. And sometimes it's like in the rush of the holidays and getting everything together, we kind of forget these little nuances. But that's something that just kind of creating a space for those types of things. So if you're able to completely tuck them away where, people aren't really going to see them, like my dog's food and stuff, a lot of times we'll put that back in our bedroom or something. That way it's just not out everywhere and people aren't, because typically it's in our kitchen. So we might tuck that away. But yeah, just giving your animal like that dedicated space. And then maybe even if you have an animal that's a little finicky and doesn't, like change like some of our animals do, maybe doing that a few days before so that they can get used to it as well.
All right, wonderful. Thank you so much. Next up, we have how do colors play into feng shui?
Oh gosh. Well, that could be a whole episode in itself. So I'll answer that in short. So in Feng Shui, I use something called a home energy map when I'm working with clients, and I will put that home energy map. I will lay it on top of a floor plan. Essentially, there are 9 areas in that map, and each area corresponds to a different aspect of your life. For example, wisdom, abundance, love and relationships. And each one of those 9 areas do have colors that are associated with them. So love and relationships are reds, pinks, and whites. Now, there are a lot of nuances that I won't try and get into just answering this question. So the answer is yes. However, if you hate red, but you want to enhance your love and relationship area, then red's not going to do it for you. So rule of thumb is there's in Feng Shui, if something feels good to you, it's good Feng Shui. If it feels bad to you, it's bad Feng Shui, right? And that goes along with color. So if it's something that you don't like, don't force yourself to use it because Feng Shui says it's the color that has to go here. So that's just kind of a quick little tip on that. And if anyone is more curious about like the energy map that I just talked about, or you kind of know about it, I do in my Instagram and my TikTok bio, there's a link that you can go and download a free copy, and it'll kind of show you how to put it on your home. There are special circumstances with that, depending on if you have kind of a more complicated layout. But for, the majority of homes, you can kind of easily figure out how to work with that and play around with it yourself.
All right, thank you again. All right, last question we have here is my house is surrounded by machinery and scrap metal as this is our business. We do not have a backyard, but do have a patio right around. How can I make this good feng shui?
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, that is a great question. Okay. So let's start with the metal thing. So you are going to have a lot of metal. The Feng Shui also relates to the 5 elements. I won't go too crazy into that, but you're going to have a high metal concentration at your home. And something that we might want to add more of around your home and kind of around the exterior is the fire element, because fire melts metal. So it's going to kind of take that high metal energy, and metal is related to like very introspective, like learning, knowledge, being to yourself. So if you're kind of sick of being to yourself all the time, you know, and you want to kind of tone down that metal element a little bit, adding the fire element. So that's step one. Ways that you can add the fire element are fire pits. So, you know, let's bring this back to your deck that you have, you know, adding fire pits, adding more lighting, you know, around your deck or coming up to the house is a great option. The color red is another great one. Shapes that you could add would be like triangles, pyramid shapes, things like that. So just a kind of a quick little example there. So on your, let's get more specific on your deck. So something that you could add on your deck would be an awesome, you know, a fire pit, whether it's, you know, for logs or just, you know, a gas fire pit of some sort. And then adding some, you know, some chairs around that, invite people to come and sit and chat. You know, if you're feeling a little isolated, encouraging that energy of people coming to gather, especially outside where you have a lot of that metal element, would be great. And then if you want to kind of make sure that when you are sitting on your deck, you know, that you can't necessarily see all of that metal, adding things like some shrubbery, whether that's in the ground around the deck, I don't know your situation, or in pots. You know, you've got those nice little kind of arbor trees that are pretty inexpensive that you could use. And another thing is, you know, trees are the wood element, and wood feeds fire, which again is kind of going to help increase that fiery energy and control some of that metal element a little bit. So just adding a seating area, fire element, making sure it's nice and lit up. You know, if you want to go the extra mile, adding a rug under your sitting area to help ground that space. There are a lot of things that you can do, and I hope I didn't overwhelm you with all of those tips. But if you'd like to chat more, like go into more depth and spend some personal time, you can always get in touch with me as well. Thank you for that question.
That was a good one.
Thank you, ladies. And that looks like that's the last of our questions.
All right, very good. Well, everybody, as usual, we're going to end this call with all of our contact info. We'd both love to hear from you, whether you have something you'd love us to talk about on one of our webinars, you've got a question about something we talked about, or you just want to reach out and find out more about renovation financing or Kate's design services. Kate does offer virtual design services. I'm about to be a client. So feel free to reach out to us both. You've got all of our contact info there. And we will also be sending out our newsletter with a PDF with some of Kate's favorite shoppable items from our examples today. So thank you guys so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you guys. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, everyone.